Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. Today, I'm joined by podcast regular Steve McGrath and Jack Clemson. And today, we are going to discuss a wide range of topics, including the upcoming Champions League final on Sunday between Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain. And we're also going to talk about the whole format of the Champions League and stuff like that, and also the upcoming Premier League season and other topics. Lads, how are you feeling about the final on Sunday? And do you think, is it the best two teams who have got there, or do you think circumstances with COVID and the behind closed doors has got these two teams to where they are?
I think. Sorry, go on, Jack. Go.
No, go on.
I was going to say, like PSG. I think the single leg format has really suited them. I don't think they would have been there otherwise, in terms of like the way they play and that. But in saying that, they've played some lovely football. Neymar has actually really surprised me. I've obviously, like, he's incredibly talented, but he seems to have matured an awful lot in terms of his play, in terms of him wanting to bring others into the game. A flaw he would have, well, for me, that he would have, and I didn't like about him, is that he always kind of tended to take too much out of the ball and to try and get himself the goal. Whereas the other night he was working really hard for the team and trying to bring others into it. So I think that he's matured really well. Mbappe is he's just
out of this world.
Freak of nature. I mean, to have that such a like a speed and strength, you know, while he's at full pelt speed, like, he's still so strong, you can't knock him off balance or anything. But I think it's Bayern's title. I don't know. Again, I keep using the word ruthless. Like, they hunt in packs. You don't have a second on the ball. They're just so direct, so fast. Every single time one of them has a ball, there's two other Bayern players available for the pass. And I think I just think they'll dismantle PSG, to be honest with you.
And like, just with regards to kind of the return of the Champions League. Now, obviously, you did have the whole, I suppose, you had teams like Atalanta, you had teams like Lyon, who did kind of bring up kind of fairy tale stories, who they did beat teams they weren't expected to beat, the likes of Juventus and Manchester City. Do you think the return to Champions League is kind of like met the expectations that it was built up to be? Jack, I'm going to come to you first with regards to
that. It's hard to know, really. I mean, this year has just been a completely and utterly kind of unique scenario. I think everyone will be disappointed that the likes of Atalanta or Leipzig didn't kind of make it to the final. But then again, saying that, we've got two unbelievably attacking teams in the final. Both of them are fairly shaky at the back at times. I think it's going to make for an unbelievable final. I agree with Steve. I think it's Bayern Munich's year to win it. Although when they were playing the other day, they did look a bit shaky at the back against Lyon. Or yesterday, they did look a bit shaky at the back a few times, and that's probably the only time that I've watched them this year that they've actually looked in any way kind of vulnerable. Other than that, they're in a different class, and they're playing in a different class, and they've got a great mixture of some young players coming through, you know, the likes of kind of Davies and Gnabry, but then again they have unbelievable kind of experienced talent in Lewandowski and kind of Thomas Muller, and, you know, so I think it's their last chance, probably coming to the last chance of maybe kind of getting the Champions League under their belt. I'm not actually 100% sure if they didn't. I don't think they've won it in the last few years anyway. That I can remember.
2013 was the last time Bayern Munich won the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund in Wembley.
Yeah, I mean, what's that? 7-8 years ago. Like, it's a lifetime ago. I think the one leg has definitely made it more exciting in terms of the teams that have to go for it. They can't play to set up the second leg. So I know, Steve, you've been vocal about saying that this new format is really good, which it is. But I'm just I'm thinking that's probably the reason why, is because they know they have one shot at it.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever change again, because the amount of revenue that will be lost from that second leg they're never going to give that up. So,
and like with regards to kind of the one-legged ties, now obviously, as you both alluded to, Steve's been very vocal about this in the group chat. The one-legged ties have obviously brought very exciting affairs. We've seen very good games of football, and like for television-wise, in terms of one game, one knockout fixture, it's been fantastic to watch. Do you think it should be the way going forward, or I think UEFA just will look at the money signs and obviously keep the two-legged affairs? In my opinion, I'd love to see it just be a one-legged games, because as we've seen, like in terms of quality of football, it has developed to be a very good watch.
Yeah, like I guess, like the one-legged game, it just means both teams have to go for it on the night. Like a lot of times you'll see a team, like say if they're away in the first leg, they'll just sit back and soak up, and hope to just not concede an away goal. So sometimes that can lead to like drab affairs. And then this time around, both teams have had to just go for it on the night. But I do see the value and merit in two-leg games in terms of like it's also a good battle tactically between managers, for example, how they're going to set teams up first leg and second leg wise, and they can kind of pull a surprise out in the second leg, and that obviously, look, judging by personal experience last season with the second leg games of the City game and the Ajax game, like emotions wise, I've never experienced anything like that. Like in terms of like that drama, the comeback, like City, like the VAR, the ball hitting Fernando Llorente's hip, and then last kick of the game, then Eriksen gives a stray pass, but because it clips off of Aguero's foot, or off Aguero's foot, is deemed to be pass for him offside. Like
that was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely incredible. Like I mean, at that, like I don't think I've ever felt as gutted in a moment as when Sterling hit the back of the net there. I don't think I've ever. I'm trying to think, like even like we've lost like cup semi-finals and things like that, like over the years and that, and I don't think still it had just affected, because I was just so drained, I think, from everything that happened. Like even the first leg, Aguero missed a penalty, and things like that. Like, so I do see the merit in the second leg side of it. I've enjoyed the one leg format. I don't think it'll ever stay one leg, and I see why it won't. But I've enjoyed it for what it is so far.
I think just your point, I think as a one-off year, it's been really exciting, but I think over a long course of time, it wouldn't be the same, because if you have a poor game, people are going to say, they're going to complain. Now, I remember some of the greatest nights, and because we remember them, because they're over two legs, like the year that Chelsea won it in 2012, we played Napoli. I think it was the quarters. If I can't remember, it was the quarterfinals, and we were after the first leg, we were out.
Dead and buried.
We were dead and buried. Now that is, out of all my football memories over the years, that's one of the best. The second leg, that's one of the games I'll remember for the rest of my life. That suspense of being knocked out, basically, to coming back and winning it, and then winning the Champions League. Them nights are only memorable because they're over two legs, I think. And of course, if it was one leg, we would never have won the Champions League. So.
Yeah, and we probably would have seen Pep Guardiola get another Champions League with Barcelona if they won that team back in 2012 was one of the best teams of all time. Their record-breaking numbers, and even as a Man United fan, I remember that Champions League campaign and watching. We went out, relatively early. We went out in the group stage that year, and I remember when AVB got the sack at that time, there was the kind of a revolution in Chelsea dressing room, kind of the senior figures like John Terry, Frank Lampard, Joe Paracek, they kind of drove AVB out the door almost, and then Di Matteo comes in, formed like a club legend, and then what Chelsea done that year, like I'll hold my hands up and look, I will say that I was pulling for Chelsea after that comeback against Napoli, because of Di Matteo, at that time.
What made it even that little bit more special is, did you see the lineup we put out in the final?
Yeah, it was scandalous.
Ryan Bertrand on the left wing, I mean, that says it all really at the time. We were just coming into a transition there. Some of our more experienced players were kind of coming to the end, likes of Drogba, Lampard, Terry. So it was great for that moment as well that we won it because, I don't think they would have ever got a chance to win it again. So,
But do you know one thing? Like, I know Steve probably won't like Chelsea win the Champions League that year because it did mean Tottenham, like, who did have a fantastic season that season, like Gareth Bale, again, what a player. That year he was fantastic. He'd like some Modric, stuff like that. Like, I think they should let Spurs go into the Champions League the year after. It's something that definitely should, like, the fact they finished fourth and they played fantastic football all season.
I forgot about that little nugget.
Notice why I didn't say a word the whole interaction.
No, but in fairness, Tottenham were great that year as well, and it was very harsh. It was very harsh on what happened to them there. Look, Harry Redknapp left end at that time as well. But I suppose on the whole kind of two-legged things, you even look at last season, Liverpool in the semi-final. Now, look, I hate the fact they got to the final, but you look at how Steve mentioned about tactics and stuff like that. They went to the new camp and they got absolutely tore asunder, a big pitch. They got heavy, they got really stretched, and they didn't have the kind of, I suppose, the 12th man like they did in Anfield that night. Like, that was one of the most, I suppose, if you're an away team, one of the most hostile atmospheres I ever seen. When Barcelona went to Anfield last year and Liverpool did get to the final, and like, if the one-legged ties were there, we wouldn't have seen Liverpool win the Champions League for a sixth time, and would have proved to be, which nearly proved to be a catalyst for them to drive on and win the league this year. So
I think another element to it, Keane, as well is the neutrality. Like, I know fair enough, there's no fans anyway.
Yeah.
But I think the neutral venue plays a part. I think in terms of just like it's like the dimensions of the pitch, for example, aren't like they're not big and wide like Nou Camp, or they're not like tighter like Anfield, So
yeah.
I think even if it were something that were to be a concept in terms of it's a one-legged affair going forwards, I think it would only be kind of like maybe feasible if it was neutral venues.
Yeah, neutral. That's a very good point. If it's something like this where it's, I suppose, billed as a festival of football, as this has been billed as, like, maybe it would be the right way to go in terms of neutral venues. Kind of looking forward to the match itself. You've obviously said Bayern Munich have had the upper hand. You think they've been kind of the star team almost since we've returned. Like, what do you think the key battles are on Sunday? Like, where do you think this game is going to be won and lost?
I think the defence. I think if Bayern have a few shaky moments, they can be got at. I think going forward, we all know both teams are some of the best players in the world. I mean, if they turn up, Neymar. I'm not a great fan of Neymar, to be honest.
Don't think any of us are. Only Shane is. He's why the only person I know that actually likes Neymar.
I think he could have been as good as Messi, if not better. But his mentality is not good enough. He left Barcelona because he wanted to come out of Messi's shadow. It was the worst move. I know money-wise it was unbelievable, but career-wise it was just a ridiculous move. It's not happened for him at all. Mbappe is going to be the next best player in the world once.
Next Ballon d'Or winner. Well, Lewandowski will win it this year, but
yeah, once Ronaldo and Messi are retired, you've always got to have, you're always going to say who's the best player in the world, and I can't see past Mbappe, to be honest with you. He's
what about Mason Mount, Jack?
Mason Mount, look, I'm taking him out of the equation because it goes without saying. I don't want to rub you all up the wrong way. We all know Mason Mount is going to be, if not, is in the top 3 players in the world at the moment. I think he's probably just a bit ahead of Ronaldo, but anyway, that's for another day. And I'm sure Frank Lampard agrees with me. If you watch this, Frank, which I'm sure you probably do, because you value our opinions, you agree with me. Tweet me, by the way. But yeah, no, I think I don't know what I'm saying. I think Mbappe, the physique of him, like the way he's built, is just he's a pure athlete. So it's all going to come down to the defence. And I think probably Bayern Munich are a little bit stronger in midfield and then at the back as well.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to just mention is the midfield battle. Like, there's talks that Marco Verratti might be fully fit for Sunday. I think for PSG, that's massive if he's fit. If he's fit, it's a very big boost because like he's their best midfielder. And like maybe they might draft Marquinhos back into a defensive role if that's the case, if Marco Verratti can get back. Like you see Bayern's midfield, you have it's Goretzka, Thomas Muller. Who's sitting for him? Who's the sitting midfielder?
It's not. It's Colis. No, it's not. It's not Tolisso, is it? He doesn't really play that much.
Thiago. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Thiago, that's what I was thinking about there. Like you look at the likes of Thiago, like against Marco Verratti, I think that's a great battle. You know, like you look at the likes of Thomas Muller, who can make them kind of runs late into the box, kind of almost in a Frank Lampard-esque kind of role where he's kind of developed this game where he's kind of become a central player, you know, rather than a right winger. Like it's very interesting to see like how maybe the PSG will they set up maybe a full I was thinking this today. PSG could nearly go with a defensive three. They could go Marquinhos, Herrera, Verratti, and they could just be like, look, let's soak it up. And then look at our three forwards up front. You know, they could try to maybe hit Bayern on the break, as you seen with Lyon the other night. Like, you know, I know they didn't get the end product, but let's face it, PSG strikers are a lot better than Lyon's, and it could ultimately, you know, be that way if they get Bayern on the break. Is similar to what Lyon done.
I mean, PSG are definitely going to look at that game, and they're going to see that they can be got at, because before that, as I say, they've really not done anything wrong. I mean, to thrash by Barcelona 8-2 and to kind of completely outplay Chelsea over two legs, you know, that's no mean feat in fairness. And I think it's probably going to give PSG a little bit of hope, a little bit more confidence that they can be got at. So I think they'll definitely focus on the vulnerabilities at the back. And they have the firepower to absolutely tear Bayern apart at the back anyway. So, and
they always have that super sub Eric Choupo-Moting on the bench if they
need him. Look, if they need him. So, and Verratti, if he's fit and if he can stay on the pitch without getting sent off, because you know he's quite partial to an old yellow card or two.
Poor temperament.
Him and Ander Herrera in the same midfield, like that's bookings all the way, like.
Yeah. But he got a few minutes against Lyon, I think, didn't he? So I'd say they'll want him back in. They probably gave him a few minutes in view of kind of seeing where he's at in terms of the final. So
that's another thing as well. I think about Bayern as well, is that they very seldom will lash out in tackles or anything like that. Like discipline wise, like I think I've seen. They got no bookings against Lyon, and I think they got three against Barcelona, and one of them was a tactical foul, we'll say.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So
I think that could be there, but I absolutely agree with Jack. I think I know both teams have incredible front lines, but I think for that reason, that's why the game is going to be won or lost at the back. I know I mentioned in the group the other day that just with Mbappe and Neymar, you have two of the best in the world, undoubtedly. But I think in terms of a team, I think Bayern are far, far better everywhere else. They're so disciplined.
They're like a well-oiled machine,
Yeah. I know the old cliche of German efficiency and all that, but it's just every single one of them. It's like, say, if you're an ultimate team, they have 100 chemistry.
Yeah, they transition so well, and they're so fluid, and everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. They're so well drilled.
It's clinical. It is really something to watch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I suppose we're going to kind of go with the score prediction soon, but I'm very excited for the game. I really am. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the season, just because stylistically, I know that they were saying boxing or MMA, styles make fights, but this is you can kind of adapt this to this game of football, because the two very attacking teams. But one is a team who kind of relies on individual brilliance in terms of like PSG, whereas you have, you know, a well-oiled machine like Bayern Munich who, as you said, play well in transition, you know, who can play good possession football, and you know, they've many different kind of plan Bs, you know, like likes of Koeman and stuff like that. If likes of Gnabry, you know, and Lewandowski and Muller aren't performing, so you look at it that way, it does kind of promise to be an exciting game.
They've got a really good bench.
In terms of squad, it's Bayern. The bench is just.
It's brilliant.
To have someone like Kingsley Coman just sitting there on the bench for it to be on, like, is sick, you know.
I know, yeah. Crazy.
Well, look, I'll be honest with that. Jadon Sancho deal doesn't go through. That's who I'd be looking at from a Man United perspective. That's who I'd be looking at for that right-hand side anyway.
You'll end up getting Bernardeschi from Inter Milan, I'd say, or Juventus.
Probably Ismail Sarr from Watford for about 30 million. That's what'll probably happen.
He's not a bad player, though.
No,
yeah, but like, you look at him and you look at like Sancho and Koeman, that's the players you want to be kind of looking at, though. If you want
Ismail Sarr is like an upgrade on Pepe.
Nicholas Pepe. Don't upset William, lads. Come on. Come on.
I'm going to upset everyone. I'm going to upset William by saying it, then I'm going to upset Shane by saying that Pogba has an attitude problem. So I'm just putting it out there.
Oh, stop. So just finally, in regards to the Champions League final, score predictions. Steve, I'm going to come to you first. How do you think it's going to go down this weekend?
4-2 Bayern.
You're going for a 6-goal thriller. Jack?
I'm going to go 2-2, and then I'm going to go Bayern to win on penalties.
Because the Germans never lose in penalties.
Well, they did in 2012, but generally they don't.
I'm going to go with 3-1 Bayern Munich. I think PSG will probably get a consolation towards the end. Maybe like I'd like to see Mbappe get a goal just simply because he's probably the only PSG player I like. I know I used to love Ander Herrera, but he left us to take 300 grand a week, so fuck him.
That's crazy. Crazy.
I know. But he wanted that off United as well. He wanted 300 grand a week. Like, come on.
Who does he think he is, in fairness?
He was a creative player when he joined Man United.
Sanchez, is it?
Yeah. Like, he was a creative player when he joined Man United, but then Mourinho turned it into a hatchet man.
I'm actually quite surprised you didn't pay it, because you've an awful habit at Man United of absolutely paying ridiculous wages for people that are average. So.
I'm
glad he didn't pay to be fair, like, and I suppose we'd probably end up giving that money to probably fucking Sancho or whatever right winger that comes in, because we badly need one. But look, we won't talk about Man United because it's a very touchy subject at the moment.
Don't upset me now, Steve. Christ, don't talk about Sancho.
So look,
today doing the Europa League follow-up, no?
Europa League, you know, I think that's null and void, just like the Premier League should have been. So today, the Premier League fixtures were announced, and all three of us here, we all have, like, I suppose at start, tough enough run-ins. Steve, talk to us about Tottenham's start to the season, like how he's starting, like who do you have in the first 6-7 games?
It's I think it's favourable for us in terms of like we've I don't want to say handy running, because this is going to be played back when we get smashed in our first 3 games. Like, you know, but what I'd say is, like, so, like, we've Everton, Southampton, and Newcastle in the first 3 games, and then we've United away. The problem is that from the 12th of September, when we kick off against Everton, up until we kick off against United, we've 8 games.
Europa League, Carabao Cup, is it?
And Carabao Cup. Like, and we've got Jose Mourinho, who's going to want to win them all. So unless we start getting in some serious recruitment, I don't see us getting through all those fixtures and still being in all those cups. Like, we've six games in 15 days.
Crazy. And that's only the start of the season.
Now, I think, like, there's a nightmare for us in around November. We have we've City at home, Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Palace away, Liverpool away, and then Leicester at home, all in the trot.
Like historically, them teams have been tough for Tottenham, like likes of Crystal Palace, likes of Leicester. You know, like you look at that, and especially the Europa League's probably in between them games too in November.
Sorry, and then we've Wolves away on Stephen's Day.
It's a good game for Boxing Day, or Stephen's Day, but we call it either
so
one.
I'm happy in terms of what I was looking to is like what Spurs fans would always do is they look for the first game, the Arsenal games, and the last game. And so, like, say, first game, Everton at home, not a bad fixture. Arsenal, we have them in December at home, and then we have them in March away. So
March is their kind of collapse time.
So yeah, so like, I'm happy that it's not like a make or break time that we're playing them. Like this season, for example, like we played them very close to the end of the season. Like, I mean, that could have been a really decisive. So it kind of was a decider in terms of we won it and we finished ahead of them. You know.
Hey, look, you got that in.
Our run in terms of like the last few games we have Sheffield United, Leeds, Wolves, Villa, and Leicester. They're our last 5 games, all winnable games. Do you know? So in terms of like the run into whatever position we may find ourselves in at the time, like I feel that we will be looking at the fixture table at the start of May, going, okay, we've 5 games there, we've 15 points achievable. You know, and that's what I'd be looking at. Like we've United on the 10th of April. So like we've United, and then our last kind of what I would say like traditional top 6 game. So our last 7 games are all clubs outside the top 6.
So when you look at that, like traditionally, that could work in Tottenham's favour, especially like you look if they're still in the Europa League, let's say at that time, and if they're like comfortable in the comfortable position in top 4, they can maybe put them kind of games on the back burner and maybe concentrate on getting that trophy, which could kick you on, especially in the new stadium. Steve, I'm looking at United's games starting off. We've a tough start, so we're starting a week later. Simply because we were in Europa League semi-final and we didn't get to the final, which could hinder us in a way. Like,
and the FA love you, so they'll do whatever you want. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay, we won't go there.
See how kind the FA are to Spurs with all this fixture congestion.
So look, you have Jose Mourinho there. What do you expect, Steve? They're never kind to Mourinho, no matter what club he's at. And don't worry, I think we'll probably get one of them press conferences between now and October. Definitely, 100%. He'll definitely come out and say it's the FA. Whoever the head of the FA is at that time, he'll vilify him, vilify whoever's head of referees or whoever it is.
Isn't David Gill in the FA?
Oh, he is, yeah.
Funny that, man.
Yeah, that's funny. So, like, our first game of the season, Steve, is Burnley away, which historically for United is a tough game. Like, Burnley seemed to, like, they beat us last season in Old Trafford quite convincingly. It was a very dark point of our season. Like, I honestly thought we were going to finish 7th or 8th at that time. And then, I suppose, look, Bruno Fernandes came in and kind of got all the penalties in the world to help us get top 4. But you look at the game after that, we Palace at Old Trafford again last season. Palace beat us at Old Trafford early on in the season. And we always see Palace again, we're a good defensive team with a low block at Old Trafford. Depending on who we sign, could be a tough game. Again, the next game after that is Brighton away. Again, another game that United have dropped points in the last 2-3 years. So historically, it's a tough game. Now, with it being behind closed doors, I think that goes in their favour with Brighton away. I think, if there's fans in the stadium, I think our defence would probably crumble under the pressure. Our 4th game of the season then in the league is Tottenham at home. Again, Jose Mourinho coming back to Old Trafford for a second time with Spurs. And I know you're going to say that it was a questionable win that we got at Old Trafford last December. I think Mourinho would probably want to get his back on it. Any game against Jose Mourinho, no matter what kind of form his team is in, will be a tough game because he is a tough customer to come up against. Then you look at that, United's 5th game after that, you have Newcastle away. Another game where we're fucking shocking. So you look at that, Steve, it's a tough running, and you have to take into account Champions League as well. Like we will want to perform in that competition, so like it will hamper us in a way. And in the final 2 games, in our first 7 games, we've Chelsea at home, Arsenal at home, and after that we've Everton away.
But just to say, like, in the run up to the United game, say the Everton game is the 12th of September, right? That's the first game, right? So then we have Europa League qualifier on the 17th, Southampton on the 19th, Newcastle, the Carabao Cup on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Then we have the Europa League qualifier on the 24th, Newcastle on the 27th. We have the Carabao Cup on the 29th, Europa League playoff on the 1st.
Yeah.
And then United on the 3rd.
That's fucking rough. That is rough. Yeah, like I know Jose Mourinho, right? He has a kind of a love for the Carabao Cup. Like he's won it with Chelsea. I think did he win it twice with Chelsea? Did he, or once? I think it was twice, was it?
He just wants silverware.
Yeah.
And, again, would I be upset if we got knocked out of the Carabao Cup early? Not really.
No, I wouldn't be anyway if I was he.
He'll be fuming. Like he as much as I disregard the Carabao Cup, and I know a lot of fans go, Spurs fans aren't in a position to be disregarding trophies. The Carabao Cup,
yeah.
It's not like, you know. But I do admire the way Mourinho would just if he won't care. He'll want to have won that, and that's another tick in the box on his resume. And it would be what he wants to do is he wants to get Spurs a trophy.
Yeah, and it'll definitely kick Spurs on.
He's not brought in to win us the Champions League, the Premier League, or the Europa League, or anything in particular. He's just brought in to win us a trophy.
Yeah. He's been brought in to bring that kind of short-term success to kind of kickstart Spurs into maybe a more successful period. You know, after that, I won't be shocked if Mourinho gets you a couple of trophies, maybe a Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Europa League. Mourinho leaves after them 2-3 years, and then Pochettino comes back. It's a very possible scenario depending on where Pochettino goes in his next job, whether it's Man City or Inter Milan, Barcelona, wherever he ends up. You know, it is quite possible that Pochettino could come back to Spurs, especially he spoke highly about Spurs a couple of months ago in an interview. I think Mourinho, maybe in the short-term scheme of things, definitely will give Tottenham a good platform to maybe win a couple of trophies, get a few trophies into the trophy cabinet, kind of build kind of a fortress in the new home stadium, because that's one thing Tottenham need to do. They kind of need to, with that new stadium, they kind of need to make that place a fortress like White Hart Lane was.
It killed us, you see, because our final season at White Hart Lane, undefeated.
Yeah.
You know, we had just gotten it into it before, I know, fair enough, you tell me the same, say you've experienced at Old Trafford, but when White Hart Lane was rocking, it was a small, tight ground, you're right in on the pitch. Even the new stadium, you're right in on the pitch, but it was 34,000 capacity at White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
You know, and you were just right in there. But the way the seat, with the new stadium, now it sounds ironic me saying it that there's a lot of tourist fans. Okay, but what I mean is there's a lot of people that will go to watch the game that they don't sing, they don't cheer.
So they're taking pictures.
If you're beside me at a match, anytime I'm over there, your eardrums will be blown off you. I'm either cursing, swearing, or giving out and stink or moaning, or I'm singing at the top of my voice or whatever. Do you know? That's why we say we have the south stand, the big one.
Yeah. That's
traditionally said that was always the kind of the diehards down that end, you know.
Yeah.
That's the Park Lane is what it was called. In Park Lane. But then, with the seating arrangements in the new stadium, everyone kind of got scattered. So so what the fans are trying to do with the supporters trust, they're trying to get almost a singing section. And just trying to get like-minded fans together. Because the amount of times I've been at a Spurs game and I hear people giving out saying, "Sit down." What? Do you know? Now, fair enough. Okay, if that's what you want to do, if you want to sit down and watch the match, I have no problem with that. You're still a Spurs fan. You want to sit down and watch the match. not everyone is in a position to be jumping up and down. I get that, but it should be those kind of people should be in a similar section, you know. But we need to get the atmosphere right in the stadium when the fans come back, and that's one thing that's missing. Like, is the stadium is phenomenal, and like I have videos there. I'll say on my Twitter feed, my pinned tweet is like a Champions League game last year where Spurs were under wicked pressure. I think it was the Red Star game at home. Yeah, it was. And we're under pressure, had a bad run, and everyone was saying that the atmosphere was going to be a bit like drab, and everyone's going to be on top of Pochettino. And before a ball was even kicked, like I have a video there of like everyone singing.
I remember seeing on your Snapchat.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, like, you know. So when the place is going, it's great. But they're just sometimes the atmosphere can be a bit lacking there, and I think it's a lot to do with some of the fans there like that are going because to experience the stadium as opposed to experience watching Spurs. The
game itself, like, look, I find that at Old Trafford as well, Steve. I myself, I often travel over as well to games a couple of times a season, and like, look, everyone's entitled to go to a game. I'm never going to kind of say that, you know, that there's tourists, because I'm traveling from Ireland myself, so I'm obviously, technically speaking, I'm a tourist too. But I find that in Old Trafford too, there's people trying to sit down. You know, the United had to get a singing section in Old Trafford. You know, it was quite noted after Sir Alex Ferguson retired that United actually got a singing section in Old Trafford. Like, the Stretford End now, like, it's still the atmosphere in the Stretford End is still fantastic. But there is still a lot of people who will go for kind of tourist attraction rather than go and support the club itself. And I think the Premier League, because it's become so...
I'd love for him to be trying to the terrace if he wants to find
Imagine that, like, they're going to Semple Stadium or something, and, you know, they're there taking pictures, and it's just absolute bedlam.
And they're in the terrace, and they're right next to someone who's like a Cork supporter or something. Do you know?
Oh, stop! Be unbelievable.
I think the key to us, for us this year, is just get that little bit of consistency into teams. And I've seen there that the deal is practically a done deal for Aurier to go to AC Milan. I'm a rare breed amongst Spurs fans that I actually like Aurier. I think he's a good player. But we don't have another right back, so it'd be interesting to see what we're going to do there.
I know Moussa Sissoko can play there, but I dare to say Mourinho will have a right back lined up somewhere.
But the rumours, there's strange rumours around that it's Ainsley, Maitland-Niles. 20 million, yeah.
He's played good towards the end of the lockdown. Like, it'd be a decent signing if they could materialise. Like, one thing I'd say to you, Steve, Diogo Dalot has been surplus to requirements at United, and Mourinho likes him. Mourinho signed him for 19 million from Porto to United, and there is rumours within the United fan base that could be something that could happen. He'd be an okay signing for you. He's very good going forward in that respect. Very, very injury prone though, so I don't know if maybe will Levy look at that and maybe not go for him. But it's something that is rumoured.
I'd say, like Yusuf Attal has been the link. Like, he's been linked with us for a long time. I still think like it's just mad that we're getting rid of Aurier without any first team right back.
And in fact, Kyle Walker-Peters just went to Southampton as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We've nobody, like, so, like, if you look at, like, that's where we started to kind of go a little bit wrong, was like we had gotten ourselves into a position where we were challenging, like we were in top 3 Premier League, with an incredible squad, great manager. We were on like the crest of a wave, and that was the point where it was like, okay, now just build on this great foundation. And what do? We sold Kyle Walker for 50 million, never replaced him.
And like you look at that, like Spurs were at that time, they were a good team, unbeaten at home. You know, they did sell Kyle Walker 50 million to Man City, never really replaced him. I know they brought Aurier in, and look, he done okay for Spurs. You look at other players too. If you ever really replaced Luka Modric, you know, down the years, like, you know, I know Moussa Dembele was a good player for Spurs before.
We sold him, and that's literally when our season fell asunder last year was we sold him in January, and from then on, like I get that, like we were never going to get 12 million for him from anyone other than a Chinese club at that right moment in time. Other than that,
Yeah.
that's what obviously like Levy wanted the money at that point, but like he was kind of a unique player in the transition between defense, midfield, and attack. There wasn't anyone like him.
Yeah.
For us, like, you know, so I think, like, yes, he was injury prone. He was never 100% fit. He played every game for 3 seasons with an injury of some kind. And you can get 70 minutes out of him at most, but it was worth it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like, I'm liking the business we've done so far. Like, if you look at like both Højbjerg and Hart, like both of those guys they were club captains.
Both experienced players.
Both experienced, both league winners. Højbjerg with Bayern Munich, and Hart then won the Premier League twice. You know, I think Mourinho was going for that kind of player, that leader, that mentality, strong mentality, because we're lacking in that, to be honest. We have Hugo, and from watching the games, I don't like watching them with that fake crowd noise. So
you have to watch it with the no sound.
I watched it without the crowd noise, and to hear Hugo Lloris, he's so vocal in it, like, you know. Harry Kane, obviously another leader on the pitch. Vertonghen, a leader as well, but he's gone now. So I think that's what he's looking for, is that leader, that kind of, like, for all the world what you had with Roy Keane, someone that wants to run through brick walls for the team. I like what Højbjerg said in his interview about his mentality, and that, like, he goes out on the pitch, and if he doesn't give 100% on the pitch, then he feels that he's not doing his job. Joe Hart said like that. He feels like he's starting all over again. He wants a fresh start. He knows exactly the position he's in, and that he's joining us to help in any way he can, in terms of his experience, is what he said. And so he knows that he's coming in a backup role, but also he's coming in there to be an experienced head in the dressing room, proven winner. I still think we're signing him as a number 2, not number 3. I think we'll get rid of Gazzaniga.
Yeah, I think I put probably Joe Hart as the number 2 anyway, even if Gazzaniga is still there, to be honest. I've only seen Gazzaniga play once, and that was at Old Trafford against us. And
should have saved that shot at the near post.
And he was too slow to go down. And that's the only time I've ever kind of seen him, Stephen, that I didn't rate him that day. Joe Hart,
he's made some great saves. His distribution is phenomenal. Like when we played Arsenal we bet Arsenal 2-0 in the Carabao Cup. He basically set up the 2 goals with his distribution. Like the one, do you remember the one where he lumped it to Keane at the halfway line, and Keane just took it on his chest, turned around and knocked it over the top of Dele Alli, and Dele Alli was running and knocked over. That was not last season, the season before. Like,
was that when Ali got the bottle or something thrown at him? That game, yeah, I remember that goal.
Yeah. So distribution wise, he's great. He's a bit flappy, but you have to remember as well, like he was on loan at Gillingham a couple of seasons ago. Like, do you know what I mean? So like he was at Gillingham, and then like we signed him from Southampton. Obviously Pochettino liked him. He knew him from Southampton, fellow Argentinian. But we had last season and the season before, we had 3 goalkeepers taking up foreign player slots. Michel Vorm, Paulo Gazzaniga, and Hugo Lloris. Like, it's ridiculous. Do you know? That's why City have what's his name, Scott Carson.
Yeah,
he just signed another extension.
That's brutal, that is.
And Chelsea, like, remember they signed Rob Green at the time.
Yeah.
And like,
we have Lee Grant as well.
Like, if you look at Spurs, like Spurs fans, like, there's a lot of banter about the Joe Hart thing, because a lot of fans are like, oh, Spurs are like a done club. Joe Hart, he's done. Like nobody sees like we've signed a former Premier League winning goalkeeper. 27.5 grand a week is rumored. Like at this day and age, that is nothing.
That's nothing. You get paid that in the Championship now. You would.
He's a homegrown player, you know. So like it's the absolute most like no-brain deal ever. We're not signing him to replace Hugo Lloris. He's actually 6 months younger than Hugo Lloris, as well, which is mad. But he's there to do a job as a backup and as support. But like a lot of people are kind of like
dismissing the deal almost.
Just like laughing at it, saying like, "Oh, geez, like is that all Spurs can manage?" Joe Hart. It's like, relax. He's replacing like Michel Vorm. Imagine what they would have been around if like Twitter was like it is now, back when like we signed Brad Friedel when he was 40, and he was unbelievable for us. In fairness to him, he was actually unbelievable for us.
You look at other clubs who are kind of up the north side of England. Liverpool, Lars Karius is back at the club. Like I know Liverpool fans have a great keeper and Alisson and pretty kind of average one, Adrian, but there's talks maybe Karius coming in and challenging Adrian for that number 2. Like people in Glasshouse can't throw stones, you know.
Yeah, but even to that extent, like I mean, when Liverpool signed Adrian, like nobody was like, "Oh my God, what are they doing?" It's just like, he's a backup. Grand, ticks the box, you know.
Yeah.
And then he made a couple of great saves. It was like, "Oh, hang on, he's unreal." And then,
like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think fans can be so fickle, do you know, like in terms of like they flip flop between opinions, and you know, as you said, you've made a great example of it in terms of Adrian coming into Liverpool. Like you look at Man United's situation with goalkeeper Steve. I suppose we're probably, you being a goalkeeper yourself, we're kind of spoiled with riches in the goalkeeping department at the moment with David De Gea, Sergio Romero, and now Dean Henderson coming back in. Do you think maybe Sergio Romero might leave Man United now? Do you think maybe, you know, he might find like that there's rumours that he might be going to Leeds United?
Yeah, I if I was Romero, I'd feel very hard done by for having like played in all the Europa League games all the way along and then to be dropped.
Happened in the semi-final in the FA Cup as well.
Yeah, I don't like that. Like I mean, if he's been there all along, like, you know, playing. But I think Romero is probably too good to be a reserve goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And I'd say he probably saw his chance coming with De Gea just kind of dropping off a little bit. And I still think De Gea is an absolutely top goalkeeper. But I think
he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's just there comes a time in a player when they've been at a club for so long that their interest, their motivation just drops off just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with De Gea. And I think Romero could see that, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to put in great performance, which he did, and challenge for that number 1 spot. And then Dean Henderson came out of nowhere. Do you know? And obviously Henderson's going, like the rumours are, he's going to sign a new long-term contract.
5-year deal.
5-year deal, but he's going to get, it's good. It's a 200 grand a week or something.
Close enough to that.
Like United are just insane when it comes to wages, you know.
Their wages, but then they won't pay the transfer fees for other players. And I'm not going to get into the stuff that's after coming out. Well, I was told about it last week by Phil, but then it's coming out today about Joe Glazer is the one holding up the Sancho deal. So
I get that it's uncertain times. 120 million, Keane, is an awful lot to be thrown away. Well, I won't say thrown away, sorry, but to be thrown at a player at the moment when clubs have had no revenue for 4 months, 5 months, you know. So I don't see it. This season isn't probably the season to be looking at trying to get Jadon Sancho, or as a United fan being too disappointed if you don't get him. From what I've seen about it, that I think it's going to happen. Whether if it's not this year, it'll probably be next year. But in terms of money and that, like it's just I know United to get a loan.
140 million.
170.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, in around that mark.
170 from that what's it called, that credit fund they have. So I mean, I guess the money is there, all right, yeah, but like, are you going to just blow the whole thing on Sancho? I know you're saying.
I suppose the Glazers will still get their dividends. And I think that's something that's just,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's rattling our fan base, and it's rattling me. Like I did tweet out about it this morning about how I feel about the Glazers, and like I'm always very vocal like about them and Ed Woodward, Matt Judge, whoever. But you look at other clubs around us. COVID-19 is not affecting Chelsea. COVID-19 is not affecting Manchester City. And let's face it, revenue-wise, Steve, we're making a lot more money than them clubs.
Different types of owners. So like there's a different project, a different concept there altogether. Like it could be Armageddon, and you'll still see Chelsea and City throwing money at players. I think it's not a time, I think, to be throwing huge money, because nobody knows what the climate is going to be like. We won't see the full fallout, I think, of this and how it's affected clubs until probably next summer or even the summer after. The financials get announced, I think it's June every year.
Yeah.
So the effects of this season won't be announced until next year, and I think then we'll see the true effect it's had on clubs. And once that happens, then you'll have shareholders who kind of get a bit shaky when they see that the club that they're involved with is in trouble. You see player sales being having to made to balance out the books reluctantly, depending on what position the clubs are. Like the Villa, like they spent an awful lot of money last year, to barely scrape relegation, and to then now have no revenue coming in. I don't see them hanging on to Grealish or
McGinn or any of them.
McGinn, sorry, yeah. So, and I think we're both in the Jack Grealish fan club, I think, as well. So
yeah, we're both in that Jack Grealish fan club. But Arsenal fans will tell you, where is he going to play? But then they just signed Willian. But they're the biggest flip-flop fan base in the whole of world football. I'm not going to get into that.
The lads aren't here to defend themselves.
Steve, next kind of topic is the best up-and-coming talents in England. And we had actually a discussion off camera today in terms of who we thought were kind of the best up-and-coming talents in England. Like, I know we're not going to talk about kind of strictly English players. We can talk about kind of young Irish players, young English players. Like, who do you think is kind of the best kind of young and up-and-coming talents, and talents we can actually look out for this season?
Well, so from a personal perspective, I really, really hope, I have high hopes for two players this year, and that's Ryan Sessegnon and Japhet Tanganga. Sessegnon, obviously, look, he was the championship player of the season. Came up in the Premier League, didn't really light it up, but again, at the Fulham were pretty poor that whole season. Like I said in the group chat, I think he just needed one more season.
In the championship, yeah.
In the championship. He needed one more season where he was getting 40 games.
Yeah.
Because I don't think him coming to Spurs when he did and then just not playing, I don't think that would have helped him in any way in development. You see him like he got his first start against Bayern Munich, Champions League, second leg. It was a dead rubber. They just scraped past us in the first leg, in the home game. But he got on the ball. He tried to take on people. He scored a volley. So he's incredibly talented. He will be an unbelievable player. I think he needs a bit of time. I wouldn't be incredibly surprised if he went out on loan this year either, to be honest.
Do you maybe think Fulham could take him back, maybe on loan?
Not a bad shout, yeah. Japhet Tanganga,
We talked about him in previous podcasts.
Yeah, but I remember watching him in that Audi Cup that we're still the champions of last season, and he was brilliant. He played against Ronaldo, and he I won't say he pocketed him, but he dealt with him really, really well. That was thrown at him, he was completely unfazed. Played against Liverpool, his Premier League debut. He was brilliant. It was against Middlesbrough in the FA Cup, and he was phenomenal. 87th minute, and he was taking people on, and he knocked the ball past the fella and ran out over the sideline and bet him and put the ball into the box. he's a brilliant talent. I have really high hopes for him. I think he's definitely a future England centre half. Then obviously Troy Parrott. It's the perfect. I think it's the perfect club for him to have gone to. I just don't like Millwall.
Yeah, it's like we were saying it the other day. Like I was saying to you, like from an Ireland fan's perspective, like I think Troy Parrott's development going to the championship will be very good, but it's just a shame he had to go to them. Like, you know what?
But in saying that, I think that's just because obviously like, for a personal distaste of that. But when you look at like if and when fans are allowed back, I think that environment will be incredible for his development. To be in that kind of a hostile environment.
Yeah,
but to be on the right side of it, and I think like it would do an awful lot for him mentality. I'm excited for him. I really am. But I guess like in terms of like Premier League overall, like I like a couple of the lads coming up from Leeds. Then like what's
your man midfield Phillips, is it? Calvin Phillips.
What's the Liverpool fella that scored the FA Cup, the goal of the FA Cup? Curtis Jones,
Curtis Jones, yeah.
Curtis Jones, yeah. He looks like a talent, really good talent. And the other fella, he's Liverpool as well, actually. Harry Wilson. Yeah, well,
it remains to be seen what happens with him, because I'd say. I know there's talks of him leaving, but I don't know. I'd like.
He was good at Bournemouth. I seen him. We played Bournemouth. I was at the game. We were cruising, and then next thing he scored 2 goals out of absolutely nowhere. His set pieces are just unreal.
Yeah, he's good. He's very good from dead balls.
He's a bit small and light. Another one to look out for, I know he won't be in the Premier League, but is we sent Oliver Skip out on loan to Norwich.
Yeah, that'd be a good club for him to go to. Like especially like they do good with young players.
I think now again I am a huge fan of Harry Winks. I think he's very underappreciated, and a lot of people kind of don't get what he does. But I think that Oliver Skip will turn into the player everyone wanted Harry Winks to be. He's just
you high hopes for Oliver Skip.
Yeah, he's so good. His technical ability, his passing of the ball, his distribution is brilliant. He has no social media. Like first he wore all black boots. He's no nonsense, like, you know, and I like that about him. Like, you never see him like showing up with like his Gucci outfits or anything like that. Like, you know, he's not caught up in that at all. He's just a young lad who wants to play ball. So I think he's really going to be great. Then obviously Mason Greenwood.
Yeah, that's who I was just about to allude to.
Yeah.
For me, there's a couple of players who I think we should definitely watch out for. Look, I'm going to, as you just mentioned, I was going to keep him for last. But Mason Greenwood, for me, I think this could be, like, I know people say this year is his breakout season. So he scored 17 goals for United in all competitions this year. But I think this year, like, especially if Sancho doesn't come in, I think with the likes we've Champions League this year, and I think he will play a lot more in the Premier League than he did last season. I think this could be Mason Greenwood's breakout year. I think, especially, I suppose, from a Man United perspective, I think another young player we can definitely look out for again is Brandon Williams this year. I know, like, towards the tail end of the season, he's quite poor. I'll hold my hands up and say Williams was poor, but when he first came in, Steve, like he kept Luke Shaw on his toes. Like, and that's how Luke Shaw developed that great form during the season, because Brandon Williams was pushing him. I think if he can, I think he might actually be pushed over towards the right back slot, Williams, because Aaron Wan-Bissaka needs competition over there. So I think that's something that could materialise this year. Another young player definitely to watch out for, because I know Jack would have mentioned him if he was here, is Mason Mount. Again, like, he had his breakout season in the Championship with Derby with Frank Lampard, and he's fantastic. And then this season, Mason Mount he's been very good. But I think his second season in the Premier League, he could be another great player. Another player I'd like to mention is Phillips from Leeds United, Steve, the holding midfielder. Young, 20, I think he's 22, 23. in around that age. He played unreal for Leeds in the Championship last season, and I think he's definitely someone who can, maybe if he plays well in the Premier League this season for Leeds, he might get maybe a move to a bigger club. Now I know there's a few Leeds fans in Clonmel who might come at me because of that, but look, at the end of the day, I think they'll go down this season, but I'm not going to diverge into that because we have a Premier League preview coming up next week where we have our predictions on that show. So finally, Steve, last topic of the night. So Fabrizio Romano came out this week and said that Barcelona's next manager is going to be Ronald Koeman. Now, this is the same Ronald Koeman who failed as the Everton manager quite miserably and had kind of an average enough record at Southampton. How do you feel about this? Because Barcelona have kind of regressed in the last kind of 3-4 years. How are you feeling about that managerial appointment, especially with the disarray that club is in at the moment?
I think that it's an appointment that how do I put it? It's an easy win for them in terms of former player. At the same time, I think he'll be an easy scapegoat and he'll be easy to sack next season. I'm surprised it didn't happen this time around, but I think it'll be sooner rather than later that either be Xavi or Iniesta will be Barcelona manager. I think for the longest time now they've enjoyed Messi being at
his peak,
just not just his peak, there's his peak and then there's just the level that he's at, which is just hard. And I think that he's carried them an awful lot. So you look at Real Madrid learned what it was like to be without Ronaldo very, very quickly. But they've dealt with it very well with some clever appointments and signings and things, Barcelona, I don't know what their transfer policy is crazy.
It's ridiculous. I slag off Man United's transfer policy, but fuck me, their transfer policy is appalling. Martin Braithwaite, come on.
You see where that came from though.
That's ridiculous.
That was a necessary evil for them. But Griezmann,
not a Barcelona player.
No, not at all. But again, hyped up player who with a good bit of ability, but very, very hyped up and highly sought after by others. So it's like a power play from Barcelona. Say oh, you all want him, do you? Okay, we'll have him.
Yeah.
Whereas you see look over the years, look what's come out of their academies. La Masia, it's been incredible, and they seem to have drifted away from that.
That model almost, yeah.
That model, that's the model that brought them all their success. And then you look at Ansu Fati. Ansu Fati, I think, is going to be up on the level of Mbappe, Neymar in a couple of years. Look what he's done already at 17. I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. But watch what Barcelona do in the transfer market. That will tell you an awful lot as to how much they believe in Koeman. I think he's there for one season, and that's it. Just to sell off the players that they want to sell off. I know that their president came out the other day and basically announced the shopping list of who's up for sale, So it'll be interesting to see who they bring in. I think they should be looking more to the academy model, but a project is needed there, and someone needs to come in there and be told, listen, you've got 3 seasons, but nobody will get that at Barcelona.
No, there's no patience there.
It's far too volatile there. To a certain extent, Madrid is pretty much the same. The fans are just ruthless in terms of what they want. And
look what they done to Gareth Bale's car.
So hopefully Jose is going to bring him home.
I suppose quickly, just my opinion on it. I think Barcelona's model post Pep Guardiola has been quite dismal. like, to be fair, I think since they won beaten United in the 2011 Champions League final, they've only won one Champions League since. Now it's in 2015. That's 5 years ago now. Like, you look at how they've bottled it in Europe in the last 3 years. Roma, Liverpool, and then Bayern Munich. Like, the Barcelona were a juggernaut. I know they knocked United out of Champions League last year. Fair enough. But I don't think of Barcelona as like the juggernaut than what Manchester City would be now, or Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Real Madrid, any of them clubs. I don't think they're on par with any of them clubs anymore. And I think there's a big transition needed there, and there is definitely a big change. It just remains to be seen how long it takes. It could be something like a Man United or an AC Milan transition.
Yeah, look, I've, like you say, like AC Milan, like I've long been kind of a closet like AC Milan fan in terms of, like, if you ask me what a Serie A team, like, I've just historically, I've always liked AC Milan. I just used to always love Maldini, Baresi, so but, like, you look what happened to them over the last few years. It's unprecedented.
To see a club like that kind of fall the way they did, like, it was shocking. Like, and I don't know how long it's going to take them to get back. They're still going through a transition, and they last won Champions League. What was it, 2007? They haven't been prominent in Europe since that win almost. Like, that's 13 years ago now. Like, some of these clubs, they go through really successful periods. You look at AC Milan, Barcelona, Manchester United, three historically the big, like, in the probably top 5 clubs in terms of biggest clubs in Europe. But I suppose football comes in stages and comes in different transitions. You look at Liverpool, 30 years without a league, but arguably now the best team in the world at the moment. Like, I think there's different periods of success, and I think, like, Messi's close towards retirement now. You look at Barcelona, there's a massive job to be there. You said a 3-year plan. I think this takes them maybe 4 or 5 before they're back as the juggernaut that they were.
Yeah, like, I completely agree there. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's. I know, like, you look at teams historically, there's always a passing of the torch, if you will, in terms of, like, let's say, all through my childhood, it was Manchester United. They won everything. Won absolutely everything. Then it was Chelsea. Then City. So, like, you look back historically, look, like, who would have thought back at the time when Nottingham Forest were winning European trophies that they'd be where they are now?
No one. Like, you wouldn't have thought.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so, so like Ipswich Town won the league before as well. Blackburn.
Yeah.
So, I guess it comes down to, like, obviously, like, more than just what happens on the pitch.
It's off it as well.
A lot of it is there in terms of, like, what desires that the board have. But I like a kind of like as much as I hate it, just because all of my friends were United fans. Like, looking back on it now, I was like maybe like a little bit too young to maybe appreciate it, and I just hated the fact that I was getting slagged all the time because Spurs were shit. But, like, the way United did it, they had patience with Fergie. He won nothing for years, but in the background were all these young lads coming up. And all of a sudden they came of age. He gave them their go. And you see what happened there. And you're like, and a lot of people say, "Oh, United were blessed. It was just a pure fluke that they had all those players." I don't believe so. Like, I believe
Fergie built 3 great squads as manager of Man United. Like, you look at the team that first won the league. You look at the 99 team that won the treble, and then you look at the 2008 team. Ferguson, like, he knew when, as you said, like, I remember you said this a couple of weeks ago in a podcast, you said that Ferguson knew when to move people on.
Yes.
That's something he had in abundance. Like, he knew when to move people on. I think Barcelona kind of haven't gone through that either.
Like, Varane, Stam, Keane, Beckham, like they were all arguably still top players. Van Nistelrooy, they were all still arguably top players. But he was still okay with leaving them go because he knew that he'd gotten the best he could out of them. And while they would go on to be great at other clubs, it's the whole, like David De Gea thing. If Fergie was the manager there now, and David De Gea wouldn't be playing at United with the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, he probably would have been sold by now, and Dean Henderson would probably be our number 1 at the moment. Like already now, look, I know he's been shoehorned into it.
Number 1. My point being is that Fergie would have seen, okay, look at what we got at De Gea. De Gea, like kept G. Not that year, season before when you came
2017-18 where he finished second.
Yeah, that was because of David De Gea.
Yeah,
you know, like not your striker Marwan Fellaini. You know, so I'm not going to say much because he could end up at Spurs before that hit the month.
Do you know what? I'm just going to end it on this now. If Spurs in this summer or January gets Marwan Fellaini, this clip is getting snipped out, and it's going into the Steve McGrath Spurs, whatever diehard Spurs fan club. I know you're in loads of them on Twitter.
If we sign him, I will do a whole podcast with a Fellaini wig on.
This is on record. Now, our viewers, this is on record. I doubt it'll happen. I don't think Jose will go back to him. I don't think so. But you know, that would be a sight to see. Steve McGrath and the Fellaini wig. So, look, thanks everyone for watching tonight. It's been a great chat, Steve. We've talked about many different topics. And Jack had to nip off, and he had a bit of an emergency. So he'll be back on next week or week after, whenever we have another podcast related to Chelsea or anything like that. Our next guest on the show is Wexford FC player Jack Doherty. So he's coming on. He's going to talk about his time at Watford and Ipswich Town and playing under Mick McCarthy. So it'd be good to get some insight from him in regards to that. And next week we will have a show on the Premier League season. We're going to do a full preview, give our predictions, and you know, I know some of them will be absolutely outrageous, but I suppose that's the beauty of it all. So look, that's the kind of plan for next week. Again, look, everyone, thanks for watching. This will be available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and will be available on YouTube very soon. So look, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for viewing us so far.
See you again.
See you, Steve.